All right. So we're here with Katie Sellergren in, well, it's not Lee County, but what's it, Alexandria?
Northeast Missouri.
Northeast Missouri.
Yeah.
For
the
Sparrow.
northeasternmost Missouri.
Northeasternmost, yes. To get here, I traveled through 3 states in 10 minutes. So, so just, how old are you?
34.
34. How long have you been tattooing for?
15 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
As
anniversary is in a couple weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. When did you first started noticing tattooing as like, not just, oh, this is a tattoo, whatever. Like, where it kind of piqued your interest?
Well, I was going to college and I had read, I did a paper on tattooing, and in the process of like researching this paper, because I knew nothing about it at that point, but I had a friend that was interested in it and apprenticing at the time, and so through knowing him, I kind of got curious about it, and I did this paper, and as I read about it a little bit more, I had always been an artist, and I thought, I bet I could do that, you know.
Oh, so you're like every other college person.
I'm like, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I think back about how stupid and naive I was, and, you know, the kids that come in and talk to me about it, like, sometimes I wonder, you know, I give them all this hell because they're not doing it the right way, but I didn't do it the right way at all,
sure.
You know, and I feel like I ended up in a pretty good spot, so I don't know, but...
I don't think anybody did it the right way.
Probably not.
I think all the, like, the apprentice stories and, like, I had to scrub toilets, I think it's all BS.
Yeah.
I don't think that...
I think I scrubbed a toilet once.
Yeah.
I had to deal with a lot of bullshit, but whatever, that's...
Yeah.
I mean, that's still not over.
right, exactly. So that was like... Was that like your first time? You're like, I'm going to try tattooing. It went from like noticing tattoos on people to piquing your interest to like, I'm going to pursue tattooing as a career.
I wanted to learn how to tattoo, how to do tattoos, but I had no interest in tattoos. Like, I wanted to do them on people, but I didn't know...
You want them.
Not necessarily, yeah, I didn't really at the time. And then, I also didn't... I wasn't interested by the imagery. I wasn't interested in... I was just really stupid, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I just didn't have... I didn't understand the breadth of the situation, you know? So I thought, I'm just going to learn how to do this, and it should be pretty easy.
You thought tattooing started with you.
Right.
Much. That's...
Yes.
Which, pretty much...
Commonplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this was in Iowa?
Yeah.
This is where you're from, Cedar Rapids?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Spent the middle school, high school years in Cedar Rapids, so it was there.
So what was the first shop that you worked at?
Like, Ink Addiction.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty standard, yeah.
Totally.
That sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The guy who owned it was a biker, and like he was in a club and everything, and you know, kind of, I mean, he was a nice guy. He was really enthusiastic and really funny, and he had a lot of charisma, but he wasn't a good tattooer, and he wasn't a reliable guy. Like, he didn't, some days he just wouldn't open up the shop, and some days those days would go on for 2 weeks.
So it was the tattoo hobby, but he has a shop.
Yeah, and he drywalled before he started tattooing, you know, so he just, and now he sells used cars. So
that's a pretty good evolution, which is pretty much the way tattooing is going, what we're all going to be doing.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, so I would go over to his house. He finally, once I started working for him, in order to get him to come to work, I would go to his house every morning and get him up. And have to wait for him to get out of the shower, walk through the living room in his towel, get his clothes on, black Harley shirt. He had a golden retriever, so then he'd have to lint roll his shirt every day, and then I would take him to work, because otherwise I couldn't go to work, and I wanted to go, you know?
Right.
So that was what we had worked out.
Great. So you're like kind of like just making sure the dude opened up the shop.
Making sure the dude opened up the shop. And he had me tattooing as soon as possible, you know? I mean...
Was it the 3s and 7 or 6 flat days?
Yeah, I never used a mag until I had been tattooing like 3 years. Because he never I found some mags in his shop once, but he never used.
Like the secret stash.
Yeah, they were like, and you remember the old paper?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like the English paper that like
You fold.
like a little folded football.
Yeah. So I found a bunch of those in a cabinet once, and I was like, "What are these?" And I think that he had gotten them from someone, and then just probably had really chewed someone up with them.
Yeah.
So I used a lot of 3s and tight 5s and 7s.
Nice.
Yeah, and then for the tribal stuff, 14 rounds, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, we came out at the same time, so it's about it's about the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so then from there, pretty much flying blind to where? Like, what's the history of shops?
I worked for him for like 8 months, and he fired me because he also had some addiction issues, so he's a little bit of a volatile personality. And so he let me go, and I moved. I really wanted to keep tattooing. Like, I was desperate to do it, but no one would hire me because, I was really inexperienced. And I was probably a complete idiot. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to be around me, And so no one would hire me locally. And it was in the youth of the internet. I found essentially like a tattoo apprenticeship program down south, and I went to go work for them, and it was a total scam, like $10,000, learn how to tattoo or whatever. Really? Yeah, but they
like the tattoo school type of thing.
Yeah, and it's
churning them out,
and in a college town with super late hours, 4 a.m, you're working till, but you didn't pay the cash up front. They would take deductions out of your weekly check, but they'd also dock you, like, if you were 10 minutes late to work. So guys would go in after working a full week's worth of work, and they'd have a $50 check because they had gotten docked so much.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was crazy, and that would go on week after week because they would make up reasons to take your pay from you,
Sure, exactly.
As if the 60% they were taking wasn't enough.
Right.
So,
there was a shop like that by us.
Yeah.
If you'd smoke outside, if you didn't bring your cigarette in, they'd charge you $50. If you didn't return a phone call, you had to pay $100 before you could work. Like, yeah.
It's terrible, and the people are so desperate to have a job that
Yeah.
they don't know. I didn't know any better.
Yeah, you think every shop was like that.
Yeah. At that time, I hadn't had a real good experience so far in the business. It was, when you're starting out, it's like, it's really the underbelly. It's not the higher end of personality types,
Right.
It's kind of scumbags. So I worked for those people for a while. I think it was a couple months. It wasn't very long, and a really weird. It was just a negative and uncomfortable environment.
And this was in Iowa, or this was?
No, it was in Austin, Texas.
Oh, the mecca of tattooing.
Apparently, yeah. So, there was a complicated situation that went down at the shop with some leadership change and demotion of one manager and bringing in another manager, but it was like one guy was a skinhead and one guy was a sharp, and it was fucking weird, and they essentially fired me because they told me I couldn't keep my mouth shut, which, yes, that's true. I can't keep my mouth shut. Don't tell me your secrets.
Right.
But they had told everyone in, like, all of their shops, which was a staff of 20 people or whatever, that they were doing this, except for the guy who was getting demoted. And he called me one day and was like, "Did you hear about what's going on?" I was like, "Yeah, man, like, this is really fucked up, And he was like, "Wait a second, what are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Uh-oh."
Put shit on yourself.
Yeah. So they say, you need to learn how to keep your fucking mouth shut. You're fired, And
it's probably the best thing that could ever happen.
Oh my God, it was, because I had gone back home for a visit, and I had gone to visit the guy who had apprenticed me, and he was like, "If you ever come back, you can have your job back." And I wanted to go back because I didn't like it. I was really young. I was really green. It was scary down there. The people were just real dirtbags, and there was it was awful. So I went back to go work for Bob again, and by that point, Bob had virtually quit tattooing. and he wanted to sell me the shop, and he wanted like an outrageous amount of money for basically some flash and a dry heat sterilizer,
awesome.
you know, not even the building included.
The double boiler for the black?
Pretty much.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and instead of green soap, he used green palm olive because it was green soap.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Haven't heard that's a good one.
Totally. He ordered a Shrek. Yay!
Right.
And so, I didn't work for him for very long because he wanted to sell the shop. And he decided to sell it to his brother-in-law. So, I ended up going to work for another guy in town. And I don't remember how long I worked for him. And it was alright, but he had worked by himself for a really long time. And he hired me and another guy. And then he just got to the point where he was like, I really want to work by myself again. And he let us both go. And so I don't know. I mean, I've often wondered if there was some other reason, but whatever, you know, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I moved on.
So that's it. This is like 3 shops in the first 2 years.
Yeah. And so then I moved to Iowa City, and I worked at a shop that at the time it was like killing it in that town. It's a college town. It was the only shop in town. Like, it was the 90s, you know, so tattooing started to get popular, and it was busy, all these young tattooers in there. The energy was really great, but there were some personality conflict issues with me, which I know is hard to imagine. But it seems to be a consistent vein throughout my career is personality conflict.
Yeah, it's just like, wow, I don't talk to this person anymore, I don't talk to this person anymore. They're such assholes. It's not like you're the constant.
Yeah.
You're the same thing.
Totally. I think I'm personally fine. So anyhow, I worked there briefly, but the owner of the shop was on a serious, like, decline emotionally, and he was, I don't want to go into too much about that, it really doesn't matter, but anyhow, I didn't work for him very long. I left. I moved back to Texas because a guy that I had worked with at that shop had decided to open up his own place, and I was kind of out of options in Iowa, and I didn't have enough experience to really be able to get, he's cool. I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know if there was like 12 in here one day. He will not bother you, I promise. But sometimes they're strong in their numbers. It's really weird. But they're only in this room. They're not in the other rooms. Okay, that's weird. People are going to wonder. There was a wasp. Yeah. So I didn't have any options, and this guy had said, I'm opening up a shop, and he wanted me to work there, and it was my only option, so I decided to move down there, and this was like north of Austin, where he opened up, and it was just, man, at that point I was like really excited about my career, and I saw a direction that I wanted to go.
Yeah, I mean, so like, were you starting to cultivate your own style, or?
No. And I knew where I wanted to take my tattooing. Like, I really wanted to focus on black and gray realism.
This is what, 97, 98?
It would have been 99. I think maybe really early 99.
Okay.
And
so like your lettering haven't developed tattoo-wise or anything?
I didn't even know that you could, like, lettering, I didn't know how at all.
Alright, so this is still early.
Right, it's still really early. And so I went to work for this guy, and it turns out that he had some romantic interest, and I was not interested, which made him really angry. So it was a bad working environment. It was also a really dead shop. Like, I was not making any money. And, you know, there was no reason for me to stick around. Nothing was going to happen in my career there. So I decided that I would make a list of the 10 tattoo shops that I most wanted to work at.
Sure.
And the number one on that list was Brian Everett's Route 66. Because I wanted...
At that time, I mean...
Yeah, he'd been killing it for, 14 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do the black and gray realism. So I only sent out one portfolio, and it was to Brian. And a couple weeks later, he called me, and he said, I'd like you to come try out, do a little guest spot and stuff. And I told my boss that I wanted to go to this guest spot, and he said, if you go, you can't come back. And I was like, well,
awesome.
yeah, I gotta go. So, yeah, I left, and ended up in Albuquerque for 2 years, and then I moved to Savannah for a couple years, and then Baltimore for a year.
Baltimore. Retreat is where you really started.
That's where the networking.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, what Seth was doing then was they were killing it.
Yeah.
I mean, Seth, and then, Higgs, and who else was there at the time?
Well, Brian Bruno was there when I first got there still.
That's right.
And Higgs was still there. And a couple other guys that were like kind of green, but like Brady had already moved on and Matt had already moved on.
Oh, okay, they weren't there.
They weren't there anymore.
Okay.
So yeah, Reed Street kind of started pulling it together for me because
that's really when I first noticed everything, because that's when I got Flash from you back then.
I remember.
And stuff like that. So, and I guess it was early MySpace type of.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I felt like I started to have an understanding of what made good tattoos.
Right.
And I knew what didn't work for me because I had done a lot of that up until that point, and so working around Seth was, that guy's, he's fucking smart, and if you have any questions or are not sure what to do, like the guy's got a plan,
Oh yeah, I just remember talking to people, like Rollo at the time was, Seth is like this young guy who knows what's happening.
Yeah.
And that was, and his tattoos at the time were killing it, and Rishi was this institution.
Yeah.
Out east.
Yeah.
Like it was like that was the deal.
Yeah.
You get tattooed at Reed Street, and I was like, you go there, and it's so small, and everyone's on top of each other, and they're just killing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was a really physically cool tattoo shop.
Yeah.
And Baltimore was an interesting experience. It was like...
Yeah, it's pretty rough, right?
Yeah, there's just a lot of inner culture, hatred between the cultures, which is really too bad, because I had never lived in an area where there is any, like, serious racism, Like, I grew up in Iowa where everyone's really PC and no one wants to say anything to really hurt anyone's feelings. And then I lived down...
White.
Well... yeah, but I went to a school. The school that I went to in Cedar Rapids was the most mixed school of Indian schools or whatever. So it wasn't like I was sheltered.
Yeah, but you go to Baltimore or like west side of Chicago or Chicago in general, really, but you see it.
Right, and I had lived in Savannah before that, which is there's a lot of black folks in both places, but in Savannah, everyone gets along, and it's really cool and laid back. And in Baltimore, people don't like each other a lot. Right. And I don't even think, white people don't like other white people, black people don't like other black people, white people, they don't like each other.
Yeah, that's all I've ever heard is the place is rough.
It is. It's too bad because from an outsider's perspective, it doesn't have to be like that.
Sure.
There's no reason to keep manifesting that negativity when everyone just wants to be happy. That's all it comes down to. So yeah.
So you're at Reed Street and you're around all of this happenings.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to get into too much of Higgs talk because then everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, it's an interview about Higgs." It's completely separate. But being around Seth and those guys had to open your eyes up to.
Oh my God.
Good tattooing, not just from them, but from everywhere around them. Yeah,
and just how to draw a tattoo and why tattoos are drawn the way they are to, the fluidity of the line work. You do it all. I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah, you draw tattoos that work while you're tattooing.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not counterproductive in the way you draw things.
Right, you're efficient.
Efficient.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it started to all kind of come together. I stopped fighting what I for a long time I was trying to do much more than I had to do. And then once I got to Reed Street, it all became a lot easier and I stopped fighting with it. And then it became less about me trying to really create a style for myself and more just about really doing tattoos. And it's weird because the second I stopped trying to create a style is when I found my style.
All right, so back in Reed Street, you're like finding your own style.
Yeah. So it started to kind of come together, and it was also during a time of serious transition at Reed Street. Seth was making a lot of changes in his life, and I was really starting to kind of miss the Midwest, and so I moved home.
So you left.
Yeah, so I left after like a year.
And then you went
Here.
So you did the opposite of what every tattooer in the whole country does.
Which is?
Go from not a real busy place to seclusion. So you went to a place from having a lot of exposure to no exposure.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, but you know, it's weird because now in tattooing, it's like you can be in the middle of nowhere and...
Well, you can, but at that time, like, that's all we heard, like, Katie moved to the middle of Iowa.
Yeah.
Like, and, like, this place is rad. That's why I brought my family up here. Like, it's all, like, I wanted them to see it. Like,
right.
When me and Josh were here, that's all I talked about.
Yeah.
It was just like, you come to...
It, like, it changes everyone's life that comes here. It's weird.
It's very strange. So, in this town of Montrose, of 900, here's this tattoo shop.
Yeah.
Putting out amazing work to a bunch of people who don't care what the tattoo scene is.
Yeah. They just want tattoos.
Yeah, I mean, so talk about that. Like, where we're dealing with these tattoo collectors,
right.
and people are very specific, and, you know, they want this and they want that, and they got to get tattooed by this guy, and then I'm traveling here to get this guy, and then I'm traveling here to get this guy. You have a... like, when I came here, it was like a very pure form of tattooing.
Yeah.
It was like, the customer came in, this is what they wanted, they entrusted you to do it, and then there's, like, later.
Yeah.
Like, no curly mustache, no pointy shoes.
No skinny pants.
No skinny pants, just regular people.
Yep, and they're probably dirty, because they just got off work at the factory or whatever, you know?
But, so before that, let me back up a little bit. When did the lettering start coming around?
When I worked for Brian. Because Brian's shop was covered in Jack's Flash.
Right.
And I worked with this guy, Alonzo Rodriguez. Are you familiar with his work?
I am, through you.
Yeah. And his lettering was so beautiful. And I had never realized that it was anything that you could do that with tattoos. I mean, in Iowa, why would I? No one was getting Chicano-style lettering in Iowa, so right. I just wasn't exposed to it at all. But I'd always enjoyed handwriting, and I enjoyed cursive, like learning cursive when I was a kid. Like, I loved that, and I took a calligraphy class, and I really liked that stuff. And so when the lettering thing came up, I wasn't really passionate about it, but I was kind of good at it.
So you want to add it to your...
Yeah.
You know, that, I mean, so much of the same when I was taught about different styles of tattooing, like, that black and gray and lettering were married. Mm-hmm. They were hand in hand. Mm-hmm. So that fancy cursive and everything, so, I mean, it makes sense for it to come out there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
But I still never really realized, like, I didn't know about anything other than normal Old English that you have on the sheet.
Sure.
Like, I didn't know that you could draw alphabets, you know, outside of just doing some cursive tricks or whatever. And that came a little bit later, I guess, when I was in Savannah. I kind of realized. Well, I'd seen.
And where did you work in Savannah?
I worked at this place called Alien Arts for a while, and then pretty much all the guys that worked there and me all left at the same time and went to go work for this other shop that, we kind of helped these guys get this shop up and going. And that shop's no longer around.
Okay, so that in Savannah is where your lettering started taking on your own.
I saw cartoons tattoos for the first time.
And this was, what year is this?
This would have been in 2001. I moved to Savannah like 4 days after 9/11.
Okay.
So
it's a little bit cartoons in his career then. Mm-hmm. It's not like you first saw him like in...
And I was Now, when I worked for Brian, he had a gallery. He had the original Fine Line shop, and he had a gallery shop too. There was some cartoon stuff on the walls in there, but I didn't really know anything about it, and my focus wasn't there. You know, it just, I guess, wasn't the right time. So then, by the time that I moved to Savannah, I don't know how I came across his work or whatever, but it blew my mind.
Right.
And I started kind of really exploring what I could do with this lettering, and it was challenging, you know, and it was like mathematical and geometric and, you know, angles and stuff like that, and it made me happy, you know?
Sure. I mean, I tell you, you know, like when I'm doing lettering, I like it because it's just the lettering.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah.
It's like this real kind of, I don't know if this sounds corny, but it's like this Zen thing with this machine.
Yeah.
And you just do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I don't know how to describe the way it makes me feel, but it's my favorite type of tattooing to do, you know?
Sure.
So.
Oh, you can tell. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, Left Reed Street, Mountain Rose.
I wanted
you did
to.
opposite.
Yeah.
I still contend that you did the opposite of what every tattooer at that point in their career, because that's when you get the people moving to New York,
right,
or people moving to San Francisco, or people moving to Austin, or wherever, to get into this exposure type of thing that's
right,
happening. And you take the exposure you get from Reed Street, and you're like, I ain't come here.
Well, I think up until that point, tattooing, not so much the act of tattooing, but working in the trade of tattooing was exhausting for me. And I needed to not be dealing with the people in the business, you know?
Sure.
Because I had personality conflicts up until that point, and so I would come back home to visit family, and I would come down to the Lee County, Iowa area to visit friends, and it was just so peaceful and so laid back and so affordable to live that I thought, you know, that I could go there and I could buy a place for cheap, and then I'd hardly have to work at all if I didn't want to work. You know, I would just be setting myself up for a bright future because it wouldn't be a struggle to survive.
So you weren't coming here to open up a shop.
No.
You were coming here to live.
Mm-hmm. My plan was that I would work.
You were retired by the time you were 30.
Yeah. I would, yeah. Well, no.
I know.
But I was going to work on the road like a week or two out of the month and then not work. Like I was just going to travel and work. And I thought that would be cool. And I was kind of into the idea of the homesteading thing. And so I wanted to do, you know, like a great big garden and stuff. Like I was really enthusiastic about it at the time. Totally ignorant of the level of work and physical labor that goes into being a farmer. Ignorance on my part. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you got chickens and...
Yeah, as you'll notice, I have no crops.
Well, yeah, and there's no crops.
Yeah.
So then, so then Mount Ida pretty much came out of necessity for the people around here.
Yeah, sort of, and also because I got tired of traveling. I didn't always want to leave, you know? And so I
Which again is opposite of everybody. Everybody wants to be the traveling tattooer.
Right. But it gets tired. And I love, you know, I've got my dogs and I love my home and I love my boyfriend and I wanted to like be here. And the more comfortable I got with the area, people here wanted to get tattooed by me. And, you know, I would have to tattoo them. What am I going to say? I'm not going to say no. You know, you can only get tattooed by me if you catch me in Minneapolis, you know?
Right.
So I was essentially tattooing these people like in my laundry room, which is maybe one step above Scott Harrison and his water heater, but
right, sure.
But it wasn't okay. I don't want people coming to my house wanting tattoos, you know?
Right.
And so
yeah, those people end up coming at 2 in the morning wanting tattoos.
Yeah, and in this situation, like it's depending on who it is, it could be dangerous, you know?
Sure.
So, I started, I guess I didn't really start thinking about opening up a shop, but I had a friend suggest that I open up a shop in his folks' building that I'm in now, and I didn't really want to do it, but then I ran into them and I had asked them about the rent, which was very affordable. And so, open up shop. And
5 years, 6 years now?
5 years, 5 years in January was being the shop, having the shop open.
How do you think you've changed as people's outlook on tattooing?
I think they expect a better quality product, which is really good because that's all that is education, you know. So they're more educated, and you know, it's like baby steps with a clientele base. Like, and I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but at least with my clientele base, I can't expect them like right off the bat to want to get tattooed by guest artists that I have coming in. So the guest artist thing, it took like a few years for people to warm up to that.
That was going to be my next question. Is like, we were there, like when me and Josh were here, and you were like, well, you get tattooed by him, and you don't worry about it, type of thing. And
yeah.
They're kind of like, yeah, whatever Katie says is fine.
Yeah, because they trust me.
Sure.
But they don't know, and they don't have their thumb or their finger on the pulse of the tattoo, like,
right,
community, like collectors everywhere else do. These people just want a tattoo, and they buy their clothes at Walmart, and they eat at McDonald's. You know, they're not exploring outside of their world, and so they're comfortable with what they're comfortable with, and they're comfortable with me, and they know that I'll give them a good product. But their other tattoo experiences in the area have not been good, so they're not very trusting with that. So, you know, the first couple times I think Josh had come down maybe once or twice before, and it was really frustrating for me because I wanted these people to get tattooed by these people. I mean, it's a great opportunity. Folks.
I tell people to get tattooed by Josh all the time anyway. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah.
But you guys, you love tattoos. Like, you want get tattooed by that guy too, because then you'll be stoked, because then you'll have good tattoos by other people. And it took him a while to warm up to it. And I think the first person, it might have been Melissa Baker that really, and I don't know if it was the fact that it was another woman, you know, or what, but. Or maybe we're just started getting around, but they really started kind of getting comfortable with it, and I'm really glad, because now that they're comfortable with it, they're kind of eager for it, and they kind of realize like the possibilities, like, oh wow, like there's this whole world out there, you know, and
right,
and they're into getting tattooed, like they watch the shows and they do all that, they just don't know, so the education takes a while.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a special place. I mean, coming up on Saturdays, I was like, how many walk-ins can there be? Like I'm driving. The first time I came, you're driving, and you're like, oh, it's kind of, you know, not too many. There's some houses and some kind of little town, and then you turn off that road off of 61, and you're just like, fucking kidding me? Like, I was looking at Google before I came. I was like, I don't know, I asked Meyer, like, check this. This is the main street.
Yeah, we don't even have a stoplight.
No.
They talk about one stoplight towns, we don't even have that.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm like, whatever. And I just wanted to come hang out and see it. And then to wake up Saturday and get to the shop at noon and have a dozen people waiting for walk-in Saturdays.
Yeah.
And the first guy tattooed drove an hour and a half to get there.
Yeah.
So it's like, stuff's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, the walk-ins, we didn't do walk-ins the whole time I've been open. It was kind of something that we had to start doing to address a need. Because from the time I opened, I was staying booked out so far that people were having to wait like more than 3 months to get a kanji. Because that's what my schedule permitted.
Right.
And I felt terrible for them, you know, so I started doing the walk-in days so they could come in and get tattooed and not have to wait so long. So yeah, you have to wait a few hours on Saturday, but you don't have to wait a few months.
Right.
So, whatever. But yeah, the walk-in days are awesome. I mean, it's basically been the best thing that has ever happened to the shop. Because it's a completely different energy. You never know what you're going to do. People are stoked. They know the deal. And, like, the word's out around here with how walk-in days are. And, you know, people get excited about it. And a lot of people just stop in on walk-in day, like, those are the days they stop in to visit.
Yeah, they stop in to
Oh, he says hi, by the way. I saw him last night. He was like, you probably won't remember me. And I was like, I bet he will, because he's a unique character, you know?
That's awesome. How do you think being a woman in this business is, you know, other than having to put out How's that affected you?
Yeah, but we've already established that I didn't get lucky like that. I did not get to sleep my way to the top. Damn it!
Tattooing is a sexually transmitted profession.
Yeah. You know, I'm sure that I've dealt with some stuff that most of you guys have not dealt with. But I've wished that it was different in that sense. Like, I don't like going to work and having, you know, like that guy that I worked for that expected a relationship. Like, you know, like, you're not going to have to deal with that. You're a dude, you know? And so I don't like having, I don't like having any kind of expectation like that on me. And I guess that when I was growing up, I was really shy. And I don't know if you'd call me prudish, but, you know, I just wasn't really comfortable with a whole lot of expressed sexuality. And so, but tattooing is like a sexy business, and there's a lot of sexuality in tattooing, and I wasn't comfortable with that. And so, you know, whatever. But then I didn't consider it an issue until I ended up in a shop and I worked with people that didn't think that women should tattoo. Yeah. Which for a long time I didn't realize that there was anyone out there that had that mindset.
Oh yeah.
And apparently there are. And I landed in a shop like that at one point, and it was rough, man, because I didn't understand what was going on, and it was, I kept thinking there was some complex reason, or what was I doing wrong, or whatever. It was pretty cut and dry. Women shouldn't tattoo. Well, sorry guys, I'm here,
right.
You know, but it wasn't an easy working environment, so, I don't know. I think now I think that it's been an asset in most cases, you know? I mean, there's some people that don't want to get tattooed by dudes, but pretty much everyone's getting comfortable getting tattooed by a woman, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, I think that you know, tattooing toughens you up, but being a woman, and maybe it's not like this for all women, but I think there is a little bit of maybe a customer service or more of a maternal sort of aspect of things when dealing with clients, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know that I can't draw skulls very well, and I think that is because I'm a woman. So that sucks. If I was a dude, I could draw more killer skulls. My skulls are not very tough.
Update your Facebook status. How do you think all this social media networking has bettered or ruined tattooing?
I think, I don't know, I think it's kind of awesome. Because I can be in an area like this and I can have worldwide exposure.
Right.
You know, so that's really cool. But I also think that there's this transferal of information that is disappointing and disheartening. And it's one of those things that people don't realize the effects of that transferal of information until that horse is so far out of the gate that you're never going to catch it, you know? But I was like a member of the old Reed Street Forum since like 2001.
Sure. I remember that.
I kind of have my career because of that forum, so it'd be hard for me to criticize the internet, you know?
Right.
But I don't, you know, like there was an issue recently where, I think recently on Facebook, Bart Bingham had posted a painting, and someone had taken his painting and repainted it, and then posted it, and then it was just like really weird.
Was it a painting of Bart Bingham?
No.
Wow. I like that.
But it was just weird because then there was all these people that were like making fun of the guy that had done the painting, and at first I thought, well, that's totally fucked up. You totally took this guy's painting and you repainted it. But then I thought, well, he did that because Bart Bingham's probably his favorite tattooer, his favorite painter, and that's how you learn.
Yeah, I repaint Dietzel stuff and Ted Simon stuff all the time.
Exactly.
No one calls me a motherfucker.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
It's just a generational thing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I know tattooers who do a certain thing to a tattoo, will add a little something to a tattoo to see how long it takes for other people to do that to their tattoos and post them.
Absolutely.
So it's instantaneous style or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cock pride going on. Like, oh, check out, I did this and these guys are doing this. I mean, it's so clicky, but
yeah,
I guess it's instant. You know, the information is just so fast.
It is, and I love seeing what my friends are doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's so cool to be able to see right away what they did and be like, oh my god, like that's.
Yeah, instead of waiting for Skinner to come out.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, and you know, as the internet has become more and more popular, it's also like, at the same time, the quality of tattoo magazines are going down.
Yeah.
So really, thank God for the internet, because tattoo magazines overall suck nowadays. I mean, Crash's publication obviously is the best.
Sure.
But the others are over photoshopped. The images, I mean, they're not quality tattoos that they're probably they're not going to hold up. Whatever. Like, there's so many issues. So I like the internet, and I also think that you know, the people that are really killing it and the people that are really doing what they're doing and at the top of their game tattooing, like, they're not stealing other people's work and they're not biting other people's styles and whatever. Like, you know, they're doing what they're doing no matter what, if the internet's there or not, you know?
No, I think we're just lucky to see it.
Yeah.
As fast as we are.
Well, yeah, I mean, back then, you know, you'd have someone come into your shop back in the, you know, in the old days, a whole 15 years ago.
Tattoo shows.
Yeah, people would come into your shop and they'd have, I mean, you'd see all these people's work on them. You know, they were the group of images, and it was cool. You know, and start taking off your clothes and showing stuff, and there's not that face of the collector associated with the tattoo anymore, which is kind of weird. Yeah. You know, because the collector is really a huge part of tattooing.
Yeah, it's a huge transfer of information is from that person. I remember when Mario first started working at the shop, he had this little book of tattoos on other people that Scott Sylvie did this, and this was from Lehigh, and this was from Chris Trevino, and like all these. I was like, man, that is a great idea. Instead of letting those people walk, you know, he had this little book.
Does he still have that book?
He still has it.
You should steal it for me.
Okay.
I'd like it. Sorry, Mario.
So, like, who are your biggest influences, you know, as far as tattooing?
Man, that's hard because I go through. I don't look at a lot of other art in general or tattoos. Like, I'm not necessarily interested, but like right now, man, Sarah Shore, I love her work. Her tattoos are so beautiful. God, there's a lot of good stuff happening in New York right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I don't... Grez. Grez is awesome, but I don't get to see a whole lot of his work because he's not an internet personality, and I don't live in any kind of proximity to him, you know? I should just start seeing if he'll text me pictures of his tattoos. He might do that. Oh, man, Ben Griot.
Oh, he's killing it.
Yeah, I love Griot's stuff. It's awesome. Scott, Scott's amazing. Zach Spurlock is...
He's in Savannah?
Yeah, I worked with him when he was like super duper green, and he's not only one of the nicest and most honorable guys in the business, and also one of the funniest guys, but he's so talented, you know, and he really genuinely cares about what he's doing. So I miss working with that kid too. I don't know. There's I could go on forever, you know, because there's little things I like about everyone's work. Sure. But, you know, I like Barb Bingham's paintings. The stuff that Daniel Albrigo's been doing lately with the weird, like, geometric patterns, like in the sort of Native American-esque things. Yeah. I think that stuff's really cool. And
then you got Jack.
Oh, well, Jack. Yeah, I mean, you can't forget about him. But I never get to see Jack's tattoos.
No.
You know, like, my biggest Jack Rudy...
I'm stoked for the next TAM issue though.
Oh yeah, I just found out about that. You know,
Yeah.
like this is like a freaking wet dream. I
Yeah.
mean, seriously, because I think any article I've ever found on Jack, I read it like 1,000 times, you know, and I try to find all the little tidbits of information I can, just because he just does the coolest stuff, man, you know. And so the TAM articles are so in depth that it's going to be great. And his article that the interview they had in Underway is the Only Way with him.
Oh, it was
Phenomenal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. Plus, he's just, man, he's he's the coolest. So, yeah. Yeah, but, man, I saw this guy. Well, I'm going to forget names and I'm going to leave stuff out, and I'm not going to, so I'm stopping with the list right there.
That's a pretty good list, though.
Yeah, it is.
I guess that's about anything else you want to add?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on which direction we want to take those tangents, you know?
Your interview. Take them wherever you want.
Well, I mean, I could go off on any number of rants about anything, but I won't. I mean, I'd like to talk more. I'm enjoying this. What do we talk about? Josh Arment's tattoos. Josh Arment.
Can't believe you forgot Josh Arment.
I know.
Josh Arment's the best tattooer that no one's heard of.
It's true.
By far, hands down.
Yep. He's the best tattooer.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The guy's got every style mastered. He can pull it all out of himself and do it himself, but he can also do what you do and what you do and what you do and what you do, as well as all of you. And it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Plus, he's fun to work with.
He takes his shirt off all the time.
Did you see that picture of him doing push-ups? Him and Mark Landis doing push-ups at the shop?
No.
He must have been nervous.
What are your plans? What are your future plans? Like travel plans or anything like that?
I'm going to work in Austin in a couple weeks, and I'm probably going to head down to Georgia at some point this year, and I might, SFO convention in the fall. That's like the only convention I do. So,
yeah.
Other than that, I really want to go work in New York at some point, like really, really bad. I had wanted to do that this year, but it fell through. And then I'll go back and work in Chicago pretty frequently.
Thanks.
Yeah. I was going to come in June, but then I got plans rearranged because of this San Francisco thing, so.
Yeah, whatever. We'll work it out.
Yeah.
Well, cool. That was good. Wasn't so bad.
Yeah, but did we do that enough time?
Yeah, you got almost an hour.
Really?
Yeah, you're like 10 minutes short of an hour, I think.
Oh, yeah, well then let's stop, because that's a long time. No one wants to listen to me for any longer than that. They probably are all asleep by now.
First edited video of Sparrow. Awesome.